Hello everyone, and welcome to the new Summit tutorial, the final chapter in Celeste, but also the longest. So I'll probably be making this video in two parts. Difficulty-wise, I would actually say this chapter is kind of on the easier end, but due to the length of the chapter, you will usually see pretty substantial deltas in each run. So while this is among the easier chapters, it's also the chapter where you can either gain or lose the most time, just because of how long it is. So you're gonna have to put kind of as much practice into this one chapter as you would into like city, site, and bridge combined, because even just the sum of the length of those three chapters is shorter than this one chapter. So it is going to take a while to get used to this chapter, but once you do, I would say it is very consistent, because most of the strats in this chapter aren't necessarily precise. In most cases, you'll survive as long as you press the correct buttons, and having two dashes also gives you a lot more room for error, because if you mess up your first dash, there are many cases where you can correct yourself with the second dash. Though again, double dashing is something you'll have to get used to, and a lot of the strats here are only possible thanks to the double dash. So starting the chapter, you just want to wave dash off this platform directly in front of you. So you can either just jump and then wave dash, or you can do it very quickly if you dash upright first and then wave dash. If you're practicing this on like a practice file, you're gonna have to make sure you wave dash low so you go under the golden strawberry. Though that is ideal anyway, so if you do end up grabbing the golden strawberry, then you weren't doing this as fast as possible in the first place. You want to do a very short wave dash off this platform so that you can bunny hop. And then once you get full height from the bunny hop, you can just dash up and then dash upright to land down here. If you extended hyper here, and then do an up dash and then a right dash, you can land right on that green platform over there. And then from here, you can just jump and then dash up and then dash right. And if you line this up correctly, you can do a dash jump, but it's not important. When you enter this room though, you want to extended hyper, and if you dash jumped into this room, you can wave dash. And the wave dash is a little safer because it's easier to extend, which is why the dash jump into this room helps a little bit. But there is enough room to extend your dash with an extended hyper, so you can go under this wall. You want to do, after extended hyper, you do two uprights to that crystal, grab this wall, and then if you just do one climb jump, you can wall bounce to get to the other wall. And if you get full height out of this, so if you wall bounce off the very top of the wall, you can get directly onto this platform. Just note that if you press jump too late with a wall bounce, you'll get past the wall and you won't wall bounce at all, which means you'll have to fall back to the crystal. So if you want to wall bounce low, that's okay. You'll just end up grabbing this and then you can climb jump up. For this room, if you do a very short hyper into the next room, you can bunny hop here. So just pretty much tap jump with the hyper. And then you can bunny hop off the platform. You can just skip this first spring, dash upright, dash up to land here, to grab here, and then you just want to do a bunch of climb jumps to get to the spring. If you dash upright after hitting the spring, you can then wave dash off of here. So and wave dash about right there. When you want to do a short wave dash again because you want to bunny hop in the next room. So bunny hop, and then you can do two uprights. And you'll never hit these spikes as long as you're going up. You want to avoid that spring though, because you'll notice I just kind of slide along the wall and then go right over them. You want to hit this spring on the right though. And then you want to do two right dashes, but you want to kind of space them out that you get directly to the last spring. And then from here, if you dash upright immediately after hitting the spring, not too soon, but like just a very short delay afterwards, you can just dash upright through this gap. Otherwise, you can do an upright and then a forward dash, you want to be safe. Just you have to wait longer if you want to do that. Something like that. But doing this spring momentum cancel isn't too hard, and it allows you to get to that last spring very quickly, just by dashing down left to it. If you use both dashes, you'll have to just fall onto that spring. Two things that you can do after hitting this spring is either dash forwards so that you can wave dash off here, or if you immediately do 2 right dashes after hitting this spring, you'll always land kind of on the left side of this platform. And that allows you to just do a short hyper out of the room. Regardless of whether you do a hyper or a wave dash though, in the next room you want to start with a wave dash or an extended hyper, so you have 2 dashes. And if you hyper off the left edge, because if you wave dash, you're going to wave dash about right here, but if you can land on the left side, you'll have a little more room to extend, which is why the 2 dashes and then hyper is convenient. But you need to make sure you get your dash back here. I think you can bunny hop if you don't like the idea of doing extended hyper at the start of this room, just a lot slower. But you want to either extended hyper, wave dash, or bunny hop, so you have 2 dashes to get to the left spring. So you might need to climb jump to get to the left spring after grabbing the wall. And then when you grab this wall, you can just wall bounce. You'll never hit these spikes on the right wall because the wall bounce will always send you around it. And then you just want to dash straight up so you can land here. You want to land on the left edge here, or actually it's a little better if you move forward, because if you buffer a very short hyper through the transition, you'll fall at the correct height. So I'd recommend walking a little bit to the right so that you can input a hyper, or if you're far left, you can input a demo hyper to get into the transition. But I'd recommend just dashing down right when you're near the transition, and just tapping jump when the transition ends, and that lets you fall under all of this. And then you can do an upright dash and an up dash there. You don't have to wall jump at all. You'll always have enough height to get to the crystal as long as you don't bump on the ceiling. And then you want to dash forward and then upright to get to this wall. And then from here, you want to do a wall jump to the crystal, wall jump again, and just climb jump over here. If you get enough height, you can even corner boost off of here, but it's a very small time save. You want to dash forward, and you want to line it up so you can wall bounce off of here. And then there are a few different things to do there. If you do an upright dash and a very quick forward dash, you can call to the spring, which is the fastest way to do it. But if you don't like the idea of falling to the spring because of those spikes that are right next to it, you can save a dash if you want. And then you can just drift a little bit further forward so that you go past the spring with your, and then you can dash left into it. Sometimes you'll miss that wall bounce, but there isn't a lot. You're gonna have to kind of improvise. And also you need to wall bounce very high if you want to preserve that dash. So I'd recommend doing the upright into forward dash and then just trying to line up the spring. Like, it's not too hard to land on the spring with just one dash, but sometimes you won't get enough distance. And then if you get full height out of that spring and then dash upright and then forward, you can land right here. And because you have 2 dashes, you can perform an ultra without having to extend the hyper. So you can just do a normal hyper here and then ultra. And then you can just jump to battle in, or if you have trouble getting full ultra momentum, it's not much slower just to extended hyper into battle in, because then you'll do a grounded ultra. Like that. After hitting battle in though, you want to drift up a little bit so you can dash upright and then right into her. And then you can just dash upright to the spring. You want to time a left dash so you can fall through here. Fast falling is slightly faster if you want to, but you just need to be careful. And then you can dash left into battle in. And then you want to dash up to cancel battle in's throw momentum, because an up dash is a little bit faster than battle in throwing you. And then you can dash up left to the spring. And then after hitting the spring, you can just dash down right to battle in once you're lined up. Or if you dash right immediately after hitting the spring, because dashing to the right is also a little bit faster than the speed from a spring, then you can just dash right away and then dash down right to battle in. I'd recommend just timing or just waiting for the cutscene to happen, because because if you try and time that too aggressively, you can retry quite easily. But now you're in 500, the kind of city section of the chapter. And in this room, you want to completely ignore the traffic block on the right side, which means you need to wall bounce off the traffic block on the left. So you can jump, extended dash jump off this block, and then input a wall bounce off of here. But the dash jump speed does make it a little hard to line up. So what's a little easier is to jump onto here and then just extend the dash jump from here, because that lines it up a little better. And you can lose more speed once you get to the wall. You need to make sure it's an extended dash jump though, because you need that other dash. Alternatively, you can just jump to it if you have a really hard time lining up this wall bounce. You can do 2 wall bounces, so after wall bouncing off the traffic block, you can do another wall bounce out of the room if you line it up. But it's a very small time gain, and it's pretty easy to accidentally bonk on that corner. So I would suggest just drifting further to the right so you can grab the left wall after the up dash, and then you can just wall jump to the right so you enter the transition on the right and just climb jump out. If you do 1 climb jump after the transition, and then dash up, you'll be high enough to wave dash. So like the transition will bring you about right here, and then just 1 climb jump, dash up, and then wave dash. And then you want to go under this block, dash up right, and then you can dash up left to the spring. And then you want to get full height out of the spring bounce so that you can dash down right without hitting these spikes over here, and then you can dash down left to this spring. And then after hitting that spring, you can either dash up right to get into the pocket where the spikes are, and then dash down right to this platform. But what's a little safer is to just do a quick up right and then right dash, and then you can either just normal fall or fast fall to here, depending on how much room you have. Sometimes if you fast fall too soon, you will fall into the spikes to the left of the platform, so just be careful with that. And also if you do the upright too quickly, that can also kill you. Once you land here though, you want to do a long hyper because there's a small platform in front of you right here. So just input a full hyper and then hyper off of here. And then you can bunny hop off this traffic block, because waiting for it to go up takes a long time, so you want to bunny hop. And just do 2 up dashes so that you can grab this wall and just climb jump up. From here, there are a few different things you can do. One thing is to wall bounce off of here, wall bounce off of here, and then 2 up dashes to get up here. If you get full height out of these wall bounces though, you can do just 1 dash to get to the top platform, and then use your other dash to wave dash out of the room. And you can grab like the very top of that crystal. You probably aren't going to miss it. Like I grabbed it really high up and I still got it. You can also, if you line it up correctly, you can demo hyper out of the room, but the wave dash is a little more consistent because sometimes you will be above the platform. When you wave dash into this room though, you want to make it a low wave dash so you can, or it doesn't have to be an extended hyper, but I recommend an extended hyper because it's a little easier to line up. But you want an extended hyper and then dash to the right so that you can land on the left edge of that traffic block. And then when the traffic block hits its peak, you want to reverse dash jump to the left and make sure you get a momentum boost from the block. And this is a little tough, but it's the fastest way to get. But you need to reverse the dash jump. You can't just extend a dash jump to the left because you'll hit that corner. And your goal is to ignore that crystal at the end. And so if you do the reverse dash jump, you can dash up left. Remember, the spikes on the right wall won't kill you because it's an up left dash. And then you can just dash up to grab this wall. When you enter here, don't land. Just do 1 upright dash and then climb jump over here. And then from here, you need to maneuver a little bit because you need to grab that switch as you're falling, but also grab the right wall. So if you just hold right, you'll just go over the switch. And if you just tap jump, you won't quite make it to the wall. Or sometimes you will, but it's a little dangerous. So you just need to practice maneuvering to grab the switch and grab the wall. And you just want to climb jump as high as you can so you can dash up to that switch. And then if you dash up right, from this crystal, you can drift forward a little bit and then dash down right into the last switch and hit the spring at the same time. And then you want to dash up right quickly after hitting the springs to get ready for the door to get out of the way. And then once the door is out of the way, just do one climb jump and then dash up right into the next room. You want to get on top of this platform as quickly as possible. So there are a few different ways you can get on it. One is to dash right, grab the top of it, and then step up. But sometimes if you end up sliding along it, you might accidentally slide off. You can dash upright and then dash straight down, which is a little bit slower. Or if you brush along the ceiling as you exit the room, and then do another upright dash at the very start of the next room, you'll just smoothly land on the top of the block, which is, I'd say, the easiest, fast way to avoid the platform. So these are both upright dashes, and just sliding along the ceiling at the start of this room lines up the platform very nicely. You can extend a dash jump off this platform, but it's really tight because you have barely enough space to get the dash back. So I'd recommend just jumping off of this and then getting out of the room. So just take the momentum, do 2 upright dashes to get to this wall, and then step up. For the next room, you want to land on this platform, so make sure you don't slide off. If you do like a grounded ultra into the next room, it'll pretty safely land you on it, or you can also dash down to stop your momentum. Just whatever way you want, just safely board the platform. You need to get the momentum boost so you can jump through this wall without using any dashes. You just want to dash forward between these spikes and then dash up right away. If you drift forward a little, something you can do to save a very small amount of time is after this forward dash, you do have enough room to dash up left to the wall, as long as you drift to the right as much as possible, and then you can wall jump to land on this platform, and that just saves a small amount of time. It's not very dangerous, but if you are afraid, it is not too bad just to dash up. You want to kind of land on the left edge of this platform though, because you want to hyper into the next room, and you want to bunny hop over these springs, because bouncing on these springs is really slow. So you want to hyper in, and you want to bunny hop over the spring. And if you do an upright dash and just drift forward a little, you can dash up to that first spring. If you dash upright after the spring and then dash forward, you can go over both of these walls. And then after you get over this wall, you want to do pretty much the same thing. So fall under this wall, dash upright, and then dash up to this spring. And this is probably the hardest part of the room right here, just because you don't want to brush up against any of these walls, or else you'll get stuck. And then you can just use both of your dashes to dash upright and then forward to land here. And then up next is the last room in 500. So again, you want to do a short hyper into the room, ideally, so you can extended hyper at the start. But extending this hyper is a little bit tough. So if you prefer, you can just bunny hop. Bunny hopping isn't as fast, but you still get the height you need to dash to battle in. But either way, it's 2 uprights to battle in. And then there's a neat trick where you can grab the block first before falling to battle in. And that just lets you wait a little less time for the block to get out of the way. Because if you grab battle in first, you have to grab the block and just wait for it to move. By grabbing the block early, the gap will be open right away. And to do this trick, oh, that messes up my momentum. Let me reset the save state. Is if you do a well-timed dash to the left and then up to the left, you can jump off that corner. And this has to be a neutral jump, or else you'll bonk your head off the bottom of the block. And then after neutral jumping off this corner, you can just grab the block, immediately let go, and then just fast fall the battle in. And if you mess it up, this is a really safe strat to go for, because if you mess up, you can just fall the battle in. To get out of this room as quickly as possible is a little bit tough though. You basically have 2 options if you do this fast block grab. One is to get onto the block as quickly as possible. So by dashing up after grabbing Battlein, dashing upright to this wall to the right of me, like the stone wall, wall jumping off of it to grab the block, and then climb jumping onto the block. And if you do that all quickly enough, you'll land on this block and it'll be high enough that you can jump to the left wall that's kind of jutting out, and then wall jump off of it. So something like this. You can also land on that platform right there if you mess up the inputs, but it's a little bit harder because you want to get onto the block as quickly as possible. Alternatively, another thing you can do to get out that I find a little harder, but you might not, is not to use this block at all. Instead, wall bounce off this corner right here. The reason I don't like this method is because you need to get a lot of height out of this wall bounce. But an issue with that is that you can't buffer the jump because you might not get enough height. But if you time it too late, you'll have already passed the wall, which means you won't wall bounce at all. So it's a pretty tight wall bounce to line up, which is why I prefer wall jumping off the left wall. But you can choose either option. Also note that you might have to climb jump if you do the wall bounce option. You may have to climb jump here, which will lose you time. So the wall bounce option is only faster if you manage to land directly on this platform. Finally, if you don't get the early block grab, so if you either choose not to go for it or if you don't quite grab the block, you can just dash up, and then the block will be really high up, so you can just slow climb up to the block and then do the wall jump method. And then it's just, you don't even need to jump here, you can just dash up right to Battlein. It's gonna be... Alright, no, this is 1000, never mind. When you start this section, so this is when you can start using Dream Hypers. I mentioned Dream Hypers in Old Site, but I didn't show how they work because there aren't really many places in the chapter where you can utilize them. There are a few like micro optimizations in Old Site where you can use Dream Hypers, but because you only have one dash, they aren't as useful as they are in Summit. But with Summit, since you have two dashes, Dream Hypers are much more effective. And the way Dream Hypers work is, so you know about Dream Jumps, where if you exit Dream Block and then jump, you can get more height out of it. You can also double jump out of Dream Blocks if you use two jump buttons, but you have to do them in very quick succession. Like I didn't get a double jump right there. I'm not very good with double jumps. So they're kind of hard to input, but you get a little more height and a little more speed if you double jump out of them. A Dream Hyper involves inputting a hyper dash the moment you exit the block. Because the way Dream Jumps work is that when you exit a block, you have a few coyote frames where you're still allowed to jump, which means if you dash diagonally downward and then input a jump during those coyote frames, you'll hyper. And that's a hyper right there. So you can either input a down diagonal dash and then press jump like that. What I prefer though is to use the demo dash button. So you can just input a forward demo dash and then jump. I find that makes it a little easier, but you can try both options. What I like about using my demo dash button to Dream Hyper is that if you mistime a Dream Hyper, you'll either just jump out of the block if you press dash too soon, or you'll dash down right out of the block if you press jump too late. And while just getting a jump out of the Dream Block is okay, because you'll still have two dashes, so it's not that dangerous, if you accidentally dash down right out of the block, it's usually fatal. So say I'm just not going to press jump at all, just to show what will happen if you mess up. So you'll just pretty much ultra out of the block, and that'll usually get you killed. So you need to jump pretty much immediately. So you want to pretty much buffer the down right, and then time the jump so that it's immediately after you exit the block. Like you want to press all three buttons at almost the same time, but you have to input the hyper first. And then you'll get hyper momentum out of the block. And remember, since you use the dash to hyper, you will only have one dash when you exit. I'll be showing Dream Hyper and non-Dream Hyper strats for each of the rooms, depending on whether or not you're used to Dream Hypers, because they are a little tricky. But what's useful about the demo dash button is that if you mistime it, you'll dash forward instead of down right, which is a little safer. Because like I can dash right out of these blocks, and if those were all failed Dream Hypers, I'd still survive. But if I was inputting a down right dash, they'd all get me killed. So that's just why I like using the demo dash button to Dream Hyper. Regardless, so you're gonna start this room right here, and you can extend the dash jump if you jump at the correct time. So you can extend the dash jump over this corner, but if you jump a little too late, you'll crash into that corner and lose your momentum to the right. So while this is the fastest way to get a full height extended dash jump, if you have trouble avoiding that corner, a reverse dash jump isn't all that bad. But you want to dash upright and then forward into this block. If you don't want to Dream Hyper, you can Ultra after that, jumping out of this first block. And then you can pretty much do the same with all 3 blocks. So you want to dash right into the first block, up right through the second block, and then right through the third block. And then after the last, or the second to last block, I guess, you can dash right and then up into the last block. Like that. Where Dream Hypers come in is you can Dream Hyper out of the first block pretty easily. I'd recommend doing the jump and Ultra out of the second block though, because I find that Dream Hyper a little harder, and since you're also Dream Hypering out of the top of a block with spikes on it, if you mess up the Dream Hyper, you'll touch the spikes. So I'd recommend Dream Hypering out of this, not Dream Hypering out of the second block. But you can Dream Hyper out of the second to last block and then just dash up last block. This part here, oh, that was interesting. This next room here is really straightforward. You just do 2 upright dashes to get through this block, and then you can just do diagonals to get through the rest of the room. You want to dash left through the block at the end, jump out of it, and then just two up dashes at the end. For this room, you can land on the spring, or you can just use the transition momentum to do an up dash, and then up left to the spring. And then you want to do 2 down right dashes. So basically 2 ultras to dash down right through the corner of the dream block and hit the second switch. And then you can dash up through the dream block. Depending on where through this dream block you dash, you may or may not just go right into the switch. Sometimes you'll need to drift to the left of the switch, or dream to the left to hit the switch, depending on where you dash through here. Just be ready to drift to the left so you don't miss this next switch. And then you can just do a down right dash to get to the last switch, and then an upright dash to the spring. And you can fast wall to the last switch. It's not too dangerous. But you just want to dash upright, or dash up and then upright, grab the side of this block, and just hold up so that you'll climb into this gap the moment it opens. From here though, it's an up dash, and then you want to do an upright and then forward dash right away so you don't drift too high and hit these spikes. So just input them immediately, and you'll pretty consistently dash through the top of this block and ignore the spring, because dream jumping is a little faster than the spring. But you want to dash forward so you can dash upright through this block. And then you can either dream hyper out of this block, or you can jump and then dash down right out of this block. And you want to be ready to time a forward dash through the top of this next dream block. So, because if you dash through, forward through the top of that dream block, you can dash upright here, and then dash forward here to go through the bottom of this dream block. What will happen if you're too low in the dream block before this one is that either you'll dash forward, but you'll be too low to dash through this block, or you'll dash through the very bottom of this block, and when you exit the block, you'll actually crash into the floor and die. So you need to be sure you go through the very top of the block before this. I'd recommend even demo dashing into the block before this so that you don't bonk on the wall above it, because it lowers your hitbox a little, and then you can just jump out. If you're afraid that you don't have enough height, or you can just do this every time just in case you don't have enough height, is to dash up instead of diagonally to get the height you need, and then you can dash forward through it. So you can just do this if you want, and that's a lot safer. Don't jump out of this block though. I recommend just taking it forward, because if you jump too high, you'll bonk into a ceiling at the start of the next room. But if you just drift into this room, you can dash up right, and then you may or may not be able to corner boost, but you should try inputting a corner boost off of here. And then regardless of whether or not you get the corner boost, you can still dash up right through this block. So it's a very safe corner boost to go for. But after dashing up right through this block, you just dash up through this block and take this route. There are two options for this room. One is to do 2 up left dashes through here, 1 up dash through here, drift up as much as possible because you need to get a lot of height here. And then you can do 2 up rights through here. And you need to make sure you get the height you need to dash up left through the last block. And it's just an up right and an up dash. The other option, which is a little bit faster, is to get up against this wall, so jump out of this block, so you go horizontally a little faster. And then if you're up against the left wall when you exit this block, you can wall bounce and then dash up right to the corner of this block. And then you can dash up, dash diagonally, and then just do 2 up dashes. For this room, just dash up right. You can do either 2 down right dashes that you can wave dash off here, or you can dream hyper. I find this dream hyper a little tough because sometimes you don't get the distance you need, but it's also a very safe dream hyper. This is like the safest dream hyper in the whole chapter, because if you don't get the dream hyper, I mean, you just land right here. This is a room where you can do lots of dream hypers if you want. Again, all dream hypers are optional, so you can not do any dream hypers. You can just do dream jumps, and then just dash diagonally through all these blocks. You can make this a little faster if you do a forward dash after each dream jump, or if you want to do this really fast, you can do lots of dream hypers. You may not want to dream hyper out of the last block though, because if you're too low in the last block, you'll hit this wall, and then you'll have to climb jump up. But it's a little faster to dream jump out of this block, so that you have more height and you can dash up right and then forward. You're gonna land here, regardless of what you do, and then you want to do just a short hyper into the next room, or do an extended hyper so you can wave dash into the next room. Just do as many hypers as you can. And then the next room is also very straightforward. So you can jump or dream hyper over that spike, both work. You want to go under this wall. So you can dream jump out of the block before it if you want, just to give yourself a little more time, but you don't have to. But since you have to dash forward under this block, under this pillar, I'd recommend demo dashing so you don't bonk into it. But you want to dash upright through this block, just jump out of it, and then you can just use all these dream blocks to get out of the room. If you dash down right immediately after exiting the second to last dream block, and then you dash forward through this one, you can just jump out of this block or hyper out of it. If you need to be higher up, if you want to hyper out of it though, because you need to land right here. But if you don't do the right dash early enough, you will go down right through the last block, which won't kill you as long as you are ready to jump out of the block and then save yourself. So it's a little dangerous to do that, but it's pretty fast. There is a strat that involves dream hypering out of the bottom of a block, but I wouldn't recommend it just because it is pretty dangerous. If you don't want to do the down right out of the last block, you can just fall and then dash forward. And then you can do lots of dream hypers here if you want, or just do dream jumps. Regardless of what you want to do, you want to hyper or wave dash off of here. And then you can just do a normal hyper here. Your second dash will get you through the dream block, so you don't need to worry about losing your dash. And then you can dash up right to the corner of this block. And you want to jump out of it to get a little more speed, and then dash up into Battlein. After grabbing Battlein, if you time an up left dash, and this is a fairly easy up left dash to time, if you time it correctly, you'll go through both of these 2 dream blocks above me at the same time. If you do it too early, you hit the wall though, which if that happens, you just have another dash, so it's not too bad. But it is pretty easy to time to go through the corner, and then you'll go through both of these dream blocks. If you're too low, you'll go through just the first dream block, and then you can just dash up through the second dream block. So it's very safe. The only way to die here is if you dash through the highest point in the first dream block, so you crash into the ceiling, but it's actually pretty hard to die that way, so probably go for this. You can actually dream hyper out of the top of this block. Again, if you mess it up, you will hit the spikes though, so I'd recommend just jumping out of here, and then you can dash down left. If you didn't dream hyper, you can dash down left to get to the last dream block. And then dash forward through here, jump out of it, grab Battlein, and then just wait for Battlein to toss you to the very top, that you can dash right through the block, jump out of it, and then dash up to Battlein. And then yeah, that's all for this section. So it's going to be hard to demonstrate the entry cycle for this room because of save states and cycles. But basically, if you wait a moment, if you just wait a very short moment after touching down, and then jump to the left, you can just do what I did and just jump to the left, do 2 up dashes, do a right dash and an upright dash, get out of the room. And that's very safe. You just have to wait a short moment, because if you try doing it right away, the dust bunnies will kill you. And sometimes you'll be able to do a corner jump off that wall at the end. If you don't though, you'll either bonk and land down here, or you'll miss it and you'll land up here, but you won't die if you bonk. So you just want to climb jump to this room. For this next room, you want to do 2 well-timed upright dashes. I like to use this bucket at the start of the room as sort of a timing mechanism to know when I want to dash upright twice. You do 2 upright dashes to get over this first pillar. You want to jump off the wooden platform over here, dash upright and then down right to go over the next pillar. And then you need to move forward just a tiny bit on this platform, just a tiny little bit, and then you want to do 2 forward dashes so you can extend the dash jump off the next platform. And then you can do an upright dash, a very quick upright down right over the last pillar, but it's a little dangerous because if you either don't get the extended dash jump, if you get just a normal jump instead, or if you input the upright down right too quickly, you'll hit the pillar, and if you're too slow through this room, you'll hit the dust bunny. So the diagonals at the end of the room are very dangerous. So if you don't want to do those, you can instead dash up after the extended dash jump, wait for the dust bunny to move out of the way, and then just dash right. Like that. You're gonna land here now, so you want to do a very short hyper so you can bunny hop at the start of the next room. It's pretty easy to accidentally jump off the wall here if you slide off the corner. There is a name for when that happens, but I'm not gonna say it. And then you can just dash upright and then forward to get over this wall. But just make sure it's a low bunny hop. But you also want to dash upright soon enough so you go over this. It's a little tight, so you can do 2 uprights if you want. But you want to land as far left on this platform as possible. And then the next room has a few different options. You just have to make sure you do it quickly so that you don't mess up the cycle, because it is a very tight cycle. So hyper, and then you can just bunny hop, wait a short moment for the dust bunnies to move, and then dash down right, and then just make your way to the door because it's going to start opening, and you can hyper out. If you do an extended hyper at the start of the next room, and then just immediately do an upright down right as quickly as possible, that is the fastest way to get to the switch. So you have to do it very quickly, like that. Or you can wait a short moment after grabbing the switch and then dash forward instead. They both work, and this guarantees that you'll be there once the moment the door opens. And then you can just climb, jump, and then wait dash out. So the other option is to delay a very short moment after the upright, but you need to get the extended hyper at the start, which I'd say is the hardest part. I'd recommend either doing the bunny hop and then just waiting on the switch, or if you do the extended hyper, do the 2 diagonal dashes. The moment the door is open for you though, you want to hyper, start the hyper further left again so you can extend the hyper at the start of the next room. And then this is one of the hardest rooms in 1500, so you're going to have to put some extra practice into it. There is a cycle skip for this room, but it's very difficult, it involves a lot of ultras. So I'll show you just how to do this safely. So when you enter this room, just extend the hyper, and if you do 2 uprights, pretty much the moment you land on the ground here, you can just wait a very brief second, or a very brief moment, and this dust bunny will be out of the way. So you can extend it hyper through here, dash forward to that gap, and then dash down right to here. You can just walk. You can take the rest of this really slowly because you have to wait for a cycle anyway. So you can just walk through here, jump, dash up, dash right, and then start walking again. But you need to get into this gap while that dust bunny's out of the way. So I'd recommend even doing an extended dash jump so you can get to the wall as soon as possible. Because while you're probably going to have to wait for the wall, or the dust bunny to move out of the way, you don't want to miss your ride. So just wait for it to get out of the way. And then climb jump up here. I'd recommend just walking to the right, because the cycles will be lined up correctly for that. And then just fall through here. Like if you entered that gap at the top the moment the dust bunny moves out of the way, the other dust bunny in that vertical fall won't be in your way. So you can just slow fall through there, dash right to grab this wall, and then you can either do 2 wall jumps or just do a bunch of climb jumps. Remember, you're going up, so you aren't going to accidentally touch the dust bunnies on the bottom of this pillar. But then you can just dash up right to the last wall and then make sure the last dust bunny isn't in the way when you climb up. So you might have to wait a moment for it to get out of the way. For this room, you want to hyper the moment you touch down because this dust bunny is going to come back down if you delay too long. But you just kind of just want to fall. But you also want to press left a little bit so you don't hit the dust bunnies over here. And if you dash forward, you'll be lined up for a wave dash. And then using those 2 dashes you get from the wave dash, you can dash up and then upright to land here. If you have trouble lining up that wave dash, you can just land, do a normal hyper, and then you'll have to do another climb jump, which is a little slower. Something neat about this room is that if you die here, so let me get rid of the save state. If you die in this next room, the dash strat is super easy. If you die, just hold right, and then the rest of the strat lines up. It's that easy. You want to land on the left edge of this platform though, because the next room is another very hard 1500 room, and you will need to do ultras in the next room. There's pretty much no safe strat that I know of that doesn't involve ultras. You can hyper into the room. You can either extended hyper at the start if you have enough space, or you can just bunny hop. But you need to ultra immediately after the bunny hop or extended hyper, and then you can do another ultra to get ultra momentum off the platform at the bottom. You have to do it very quickly though. But sometimes if you mistime the jump, you'll just lose all your speed and that'll get you killed. So I'd recommend delaying the second down right dash so you wave dash off this platform instead. And the wave dash is still fast enough to get the cycle. So just bunny hop, dash, wave dash. And then you can just fall low enough that you can do 3 upright dashes there. So you do an upright through the crystal and then use your 2 dashes to do 2 more uprights through the fall. And then the moment you touch down here, you want to extended hyper, do an ultra, and then you need to do a wave dash off the middle pillar of those 3 pillars with the dust bunnies. But you need to do it fast enough that that dust bunny doesn't go down. And you can see it's pretty tight. If you're afraid to go through this room too slowly, and if you do the bunny hop at the start instead of the extended hyper, you will go a little more slowly. Is instead of ultra dashing to the middle pillar, you can dash forward and then wave dash off the right pillar if you think you're too slow. Just note that if you weren't too slow and you try doing the safe strat, the third dust bunny will kill you. So just judge how fast you're going to decide which of these two you want to do. Now, your last option though, if you have trouble getting the extended hyper at the start, is just to buffer a hyper. So you move to the right and then dash down right. And that makes this last part a little easier. I missed the crystal. You also don't need to do two down rights for that last ultra if you don't want to extend the hyper, because you need to get there very quickly. Like, I just barely missed it. Another thing you can do with the wave dash is, to go a little faster even, is you can ultra. And as long as you don't ultra too soon, you'll still be able to get the crystal. You pretty much need to do all of the fastest things in order to get, or not all of the fastest things, but enough of the fast things in order to get the fast cycle at the end. So let me just do this one more time. That's the safe method, and then that's the fast method. So after bunny hopping off the middle pillar, it's just an upright and forward. So lots and lots of different ways to do this room. You just need to find which one is consistent. There are lots of different slow methods that use the third pillar, lots of fast methods that use the second pillar. There's even a super fast strat where you wave dash off the first pillar that top runners do, but I have no idea how it works. So I'd highly recommend trying the third pillar version first, and then once you get consistent with that, just test out the second pillar version where you ultra to the second pillar and see if you can get it. When practicing, note that this door counts as a checkpoint, so if you're not using save states, you'll have to use the debug map in order to warp to the transition before this room if you want to keep practicing it. When you get to here though, you just want to walk to the right and make sure that you're lined up with this wall, that you can wall bounce and then dash up to that. Because you want to be on the left side of this transition so you can dash up right through here. And so kind of the fast strat is to get onto the first platform, skip the second platform, and then get to here. Kind of like that. What I do is I actually stay on the left wall, so I can wall bounce at the start of the room and then do two right dashes. So I just skip the first platform and go to the second one instead, and then you pretty much do the same thing before the rest of the way. You just do an up dash here. But you need to get through that second to last pillar before the dust bunny gets out of the way. And then you can either stall in the gap between the two pillars to let the last dust bunny go out of the way, or if you do this room really quickly, you can do two quick right dashes, but it is pretty dangerous. So I'd recommend just stalling. And then there's a route divide here. You can either go top or bottom, but bottom is ever so slightly faster, and also I'd say much safer. So after you land right here, if you jump and then dash down right, you can break the block as soon as possible and then just buffer a down dash. You get into here. This room is known as the dog room because the cluster of dust bunnies in the middle looks like a dog. Basically, you want to extend a hyper or wave dash here, so if you enter this room really far to the right, I'd recommend moving to the left first. And then you can just extend a hyper, dash upright, and then dash forward. And as long as you do the forward dash late enough, you'll be able to just slide into here. Make sure you are holding grab though, because sometimes you'll grab the corner above the spring. And also be ready to dash just in case you accidentally hit the spring. You're gonna land right here. You aren't going to drift into the next room in most cases. So you can either hyper or dash jump into the next room. I'd actually recommend dash jumping because then it's easier to get over the platform at the start. But if you hyper in, you're going to slide along the platform and then you need to press left a little so that you don't land on the platform on the right. So this platform will catch you if you're moving right too fast. But if you just input a dash jump, you can just hold right. And you can even fast fall if you hold dash jump and you won't slide along the platform. But I'd recommend doing 2 upright dashes so that you can climb jump to the first crystal. And then you can wall bounce off that next wall to get through the next part a little more safely. You can also just repeat this first part. Or actually, no, you can't. So you need to up dash and then dash. In fact, I'd highly recommend wall bouncing because that is the easiest way. If you do a down right dash with the correct lineup, you can also set up that wall bounce. It's a little tough. But regardless of what you want to do, you want to wall bounce to the next crystal. So you can just fall if you want. Make sure you don't do that. But after grabbing the last crystal, you just want to do pretty much the same thing that you did at the start. Just fall, and then do 2 uprights to get to here. And then up next is the last room at 1500, which is another tough one. So you want to hyper in and be ready to bunny hop. So you can then dash down right, and then down. Get the battle in really quickly. If you do it quickly enough, you can dash up left, and then I'd say the hardest part of this room is that wall bounce right there. Because you need to avoid that dust bunny right there. So you need to line up this wall bounce so that you aren't using the nudge window of it. You want to avoid the dust bunny by dashing up early enough, but not too early that you don't get the wall bounce at all. But once you get this wall bounce, you're pretty much free for the rest of the room. It's all about just getting to the next platform quickly, and then you can jump and then dash forward to battle in there, or you can do a short dash jump. The short dash jump isn't very dangerous. You need to fall a little after that battle ends, so you can do 2 forward dashes to get to the snow platform. And then again, as long as you grab battle and suit enough, you can dash to the left right away before this dust bunny gets in your way. A safe strat that you can do if you have trouble with that wall bounce at the start, because that wall bounce is by far the hardest part of the room, is going to the right, wall bouncing off this wall, and then again the cycles pretty much line up. You have to make sure this dust bunny moves out of the way though, and you need to go over this dust bunny. So dust bunny will move down, and then you just kind of repeat. This strat, where you go on the right wall. So if you die in this room, the normal strat won't work, because if you try the wall bounce, it can work, but it's also a little harder because that dust bunny at the start is in a slightly different position, and it will kill you sometimes. So if you die and you end up right here, I would recommend going for the right wall strat, because that way you don't even need to do the left wall bounce. And everything just lines up if you do this from death as well. If you do it from death though, you will have to wait for this dust bunny to move up. Alright, so this is the last section I'm going to go over in part 1. 2,000 meters. Which is one of the longer sections due to some auto-scrollers, but you can cut down a pretty significant amount of time in the auto-scrollers. When you get to this room, you want to jump, and then pretty much a full height jump will line you up with this platform perfectly, so you can extend a dash jump off of it. And then you can just dash forward to the bubble, or you can dash down right first. But you want to take this bubble up right, wall jump, and then do an up left and left into that next bubble. And then this bubble, if you take this bubble left, dash up left, and then immediately dash up, you'll be lined up with the right wall, and you can wall bounce. Like that. And this wall bounce at the start is very important for the fast strat in this room. So I'll even put a save state here so I can demonstrate the wall bounce. So you wall bounce here, and then you need to wall bounce off of there, so that you don't even touch the ground in this room. Because this is the route to get a berry, and normally you would get up here using like kind of transitions like this. But the wall bounce just lets you avoid the other room and avoid landing on the floor. If you do mess anything up in this room though, you can do the wall bounce if you jump from here. So step up onto here, and you can still get the wall bounce. A common way to mess up the wall bounce is to not move right enough and then bonk your head on the ceiling. So definitely practice this back up just in case you do bonk your head. You can also sometimes miss this wall bounce. But if you get into this room, you can dash upright and then wave dash here. Then there are a few different ways to do this room. One is to kind of bunny hop off this first cloud, I believe. Oh, I'm messing it up because I meant to transition at the wrong spot. What I'd recommend though is doing a dash jump immediately after wave dashing, because you'll be lined up perfectly with it. And then you can wave dash off the second cloud, and then just do 2 uprights, ignoring the third cloud. You can also, if you do an extended dash up here, or no, if you do an extended demo hyper here, actually, you'll be perfectly lined up to dash jump off the second cloud, and then that lets you do a wave dash off the last cloud. Or you can do a demo hyper, which is a little easier. So you can do the 3 cloud method, which uses 2 demo hypers and a dash jump. Like that. Or you can not use the 3rd cloud by dash jumping off of here and then wave dashing off of here. You're gonna land right here. Sometimes you'll grab this berry, sometimes you won't. It's kind of just a random berry. But you want to hyper into the next room from here. You can do a wave dash off of here and just kind of glide over these corners, but it's pretty hard to line up, so I'd recommend just dashing forward so you can wave dash off here. You can wave dash off this platform, and just do lots of hypers or lots of wave dashes to get out of the room. You need to be ready to do a pretty precisely timed wave dash in the next room though. You need to wave dash off of this platform, which is a little tough because you can accidentally either jump off this corner or jump off this corner, or even if you accidentally wave dash off this platform, you won't get your dash back. So you need to wave dash off of here to restore your dash, and then you can go straight to the bubble. If you have trouble timing that, you can dash down, let the wind push you to the left, and then you'll be able to extend the hyper from here. But you can just do 2 forward dashes to the bubble. You can take either take the bubble upright, dash right, and then up, like that, or take the bubble right, dash upright, and then up. And it's just two right dashes to get to the wall. I would suggest demo dashing to make sure you go under this pillar and you don't accidentally grab it. But you just want to climb jump up to land right here. You can either jump and then dash upright so you can wave dash, or you can wall bounce right here so you can wave dash. Wall bounce is slightly faster. And then the next room is a pretty tough room because it has both wind and snowballs in it. So this is a very cycle-based room. But you want to make sure that you wave dash off this platform and wave dash off this platform, because you need to do this ultra here. And if you get the ultra, you'll be able to just jump to the bubble. But you need to make sure that you avoid that snowball. So 2 options to avoid the snowball is to take the bubble forward, dash upright, and then forward. But you need to make sure you do it slowly enough that you land on the platform. And then you want to extend the dash jump off the platform. Your other option is to take the bubble upright and then fall so that the bubble goes, or so that the snowball goes above you. So if you go upright in the bubble, the snowball will go high. So you can do 2 forward dashes to here. Some other options is, since you have another dash, you can wave dash off that platform instead of doing the ultra, which removes the risk of basically losing your ultra speed. And then you will have to dash forward to the bubble if you do the wave dash, because it's a little slower. But if you do a downright dash after the wave dash, you can do an upright to the bubble, and that's the fastest way to get to it. Because the downright is an ultra, so you keep your hyper momentum a little longer, and then the upright gets you to the bubble. If you do that method, you can still do either of those, but note that if you do take the bubble upright, the snowball is going to be a little lower because you did this a little faster. So if you get to the bubble really quickly, I would recommend taking the bubble forward and then going over the snowball. You want to extend a dash jump to get over these spikes since you'll be going up. The spikes won't kill you. And then you want to either wave dash here or dash down so you can extended hyper. And this is a pretty difficult extended hyper for a few different reasons. One is that if you do it too quickly, you'll bonk your head on the ceiling. Let me just get the snowball out of the way. You'll bonk on the ceiling here and you might fall. So you just want to be ready, just in case you do bonk, to do 2 upright dashes. Another thing that could happen is if you lose your dash and then try and do 2 upright dashes, well then obviously you're not going to quite make it. So just pretend I had 1 dash there. I'm kind of surprised I extended that. But what's important is that it's more important that you get your dash back than it is that you don't bonk. Because if you do bonk, you can still survive. So I bonk there, but you can still do 2 upright dashes. If you lose your dash, you'll have to react to it by taking this hyper further forward. And then dashing upright to the wall. If you do this all correctly though, you won't bonk, and then you can get to the top of the wall. And if you drift all the way to the left, I find it even easier to do if you do an extended demo hyper, because that sends you a little further forward and helps you avoid bonking. Or if you have a lot of trouble with all of these, you can just always extend hyper off the front of the platform and not worry about getting your dash back, and then you can just delay it. I should show you this room in the context of where the snowball will be, because the snowball won't be right there when you get to this point. The snowball, ideally you'll go over the snowball as you do this part. If you do this room quickly enough, you can wait the snowball out if you want, if you don't want it to get out of the way. But usually you'll go over it. If you bonk on the ceiling, sometimes you'll fall and hit the snowball. Other times you'll bonk on the snowball, so the snowball is kind of random depending on how fast you do it. But if you do it correctly, you'll always go over it. Just note that the snowball will be in your way, which makes going low a little more dangerous. If you do make it though, you're gonna land right here. And then, so there are 2 different sort of auto-scroller skip methods to do this. One is to take this block as you normally would. So you need to move it under here, go up here. And then instead of grabbing the left side of this block or right side of this block and then just drifting through the gap, you want to take it high enough that you can extend a hyper off of it, but you aren't going to be able to get the block past this point. So what you can do is the moment the block breaks, you can extend a hyper off the block and then do 2 uprights to get to this block. Alternatively, if you get enough distance, you can also do a forward dash. But if you don't get enough distance, you will fall and miss the block. So I'd recommend doing 2 uprights if you want to play safe. Also, you can wait until this block gets destroyed. Like, even if it stops moving, you can still make it, as long as you do it right after it stops moving. Because while you need a momentum boost from the block, you can still get a momentum boost if you hyper shortly after it disappears. Some other options to consider is you want to make it as high as possible, because if you extend the hyper correctly, you won't hit the spikes, as long as you don't nudge the block up, like that. So as long as you don't move it too high. And also remember, hypering will move the block down, because you press down to extend it. If you don't want to move the block down, you can demo hyper. Alright, never mind, you can't. I thought you could. But doing 2 uprights is the safest way to get to this block. You don't want to wait for the block to move up, so you just want to jump and then get up here. And from this point on, you have pretty much 2 options. One is to fall, wall bounce, and then dash up like that. So if you just hold forward from here, you can just fall until the wall bounce lines up. If you bonk attempting the wall bounce, just be ready to dash up left because you have another dash to save it. Another way to do this though, that's a little bit faster and really isn't all that hard, is if you dash up right, you can spike jump here. And this is pretty easy to get used to. It's not too dangerous, so you can try either option if you want. There's really no risk of bonking if you go for the spike jump. So, but if you overshoot it, then you might not be able to get back. So just pick which option you find easier. They're both about the same difficulty-wise, but it depends on player, really. When you get here, you can just hyper out if you want, or you can hyper and then ultra. Again, since you have 2 dashes, you don't need to extend the hyper. And if you ultra, you can you want to grab the left side of the block since you can get to that side earliest. So I'd recommend extended hypering, so you go low. And then just grab the block. This room is an auto-scroller that you mostly can't skip, so I'd recommend just work your way around as you normally would. This is messing up the camera, so I'll practice in the transition. You can just do this mostly normally. You want to get around these spikes, so you can either stay on the left edge of the block and go up like that. I find that a little dangerous, so what I do is I land on the crumble block and then just do 2 dashes. There's no fast way to do this first part, so just do whatever you find safest. Then you just want to climb up, jump on the block, and then get out. A very small optimization you can do to get out of the room a little sooner, saves maybe like 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds, is if you climb up the right wall, you can do a wall bounce here, and then just dash up. Don't try to wall bounce off this wall, because you'll probably hit the spikes. Just move left until the gap is clear, and then you want to dash up, and then you probably won't go straight into the transition. So you're going to want to drift to the right, and then just wall jump off of here. When you enter this transition, if you drift all the way to this wall right here, you'll pretty much automatically be lined up to corner jump off there. So I'll show you from the transition. So again, you want to get to the top of this wall, and then you want to wall jump off here. If you drift to the right, so just after entering the transition, you drift to the right wall and then dash up right, this corner jump will always line up. So you should just go for that usually. If you don't want to go for it though, you can just land on the ground, or you can just do 2 upright dashes. This corner jump is very easy though, so if you get the corner jump, you can just dash right. That. Don't walk into the next spin though. You want to hyper from a little further left so that you don't bump into this corner. But I would recommend wave dashing or extended hypering off here, so you can dash upright and wave dash off this next platform. And then you can do the same, dash upright and wave dash off this platform. And then you need to press left a little bit so you don't fly into those spikes. And then you want to dash right into this bubble. And since you have 2 dashes, a slightly slower, but an option that you can consider is to dash down there. That is a little bit slower because you don't move as far to the right when you get to the bubble. But the dashing down there, since you have 2 dashes, does help you avoid those spikes if pressing left doesn't help. But then you pretty much just do this normally. Take the bubble upright, dash upright, and then you don't need to jump here. You can just dash up and then wave dash out. You want to either extended hyper or bunny hop here. I find bunny hopping much safer, so I'd recommend it. You want to dash upright so you can line up a wall bounce off this block. And then you can either dash right or dash upright. Dashing upright makes this a little easier to line up, but you also want to wall bounce off here so you can skip the block on the right. And then if you do a well-timed up left dash shortly after hitting the spring, you can corner jump there, which allows you to get to the last block as soon as possible. Like, that corner jump isn't too hard and it's pretty safe because I'll end up just grabbing the wall below. If you don't want to do that though, your other option is just do. In fact, I don't know why I wave dash there. Your other option is just to dash up left and then climb jump onto the block. You don't have to be holding onto this block for long. Pretty much the moment you get past this kind of hole in the wall right here, you can wall jump and then dash right to get over all these spikes. In fact, you can even do it a little earlier than that. You see I very easily got past the spikes, so you can wall jump off of it really early, as long as you make sure you let it start moving. But you're not going to have a dash here, so if you just hold right here and then slide along the wall, sometimes you'll land directly on this platform, but sometimes you won't quite make it. So if you press grab the moment you pass this wall, you'll grab this wall just in case you don't quite make it, and then you can climb jump up. If you're still afraid of that though, you can just wall jump off of here, and it's a little bit slower. Up next is the last room in 2000. So you want to hyper, and then if you extend the hyper, or even if you don't extend the hyper, since you get the crystal, you can do 3 dashes to Battle End, and then after Battle End throws you, you want to cancel Battle End's momentum with an up dash, up right, and then if you do a down left, up left, you can get to the bubble really quickly. Take the bubble left, do down left, left, and then coming up is a fairly easy demo dash. What you want to do, so after Battle End throws you, you just want to dash up left, and then if you do up right, and then demo dash to the right immediately after Battle End throws you, you'll actually slide into the gap between the block and the ceiling above. And this is much less tight than the pixel perfect demo dashes that you would do through spikes. So you have a much larger window to do this. And this is also extremely safe, because if you mess it up, you're just gonna grab a wall. Like if you miss it, you can just grab that wall like that. But if you get it, you can do a hyper or extended hyper off the top of the block, and then just skip having to climb up. So yeah, you can just hyper off the top of the block. If you extend the hyper, you can do 2 forward dashes to Battle End. If you don't extend the hyper, or if you just have trouble extending the hyper, I'd recommend just either dashing forward or upright to Battle End. If you do grab the block though, you'll have to wait for it to move out of the way, and then once you climb to the top of it, you pretty much do the same thing to get out. I shouldn't have done that. You want to dash up after that Battle End throws you, and then you can dash up left to it, or I believe you can even do just 2 up dashes. No, it's an up and then an up left dash. And after this Battle End throws you, if you time a left dash, you don't have to wait for it to start falling again. It's pretty easy just to time a left dash immediately after Battle End throws you, the dash between these spikes. And then if you want, you can dash down to the spring, but if you find that dangerous, you can just fall to it. And there are no spikes on the ceiling, so you'll just bonk the wall if you do it too late. Just don't do it too early. After this spring sends you to the left, you can, as long as you fall a little bit, you can pretty safely do 2 left dashes to the bubble. Like even though the bubble is a little bit high up, it'll actually float down to you if you go just barely below it. So it is pretty safe just to do 2 left dashes to Battle End here. Like you see, I grabbed her even though I was really low. And then in a similar manner, after Battle End throws you up here, even though the bubble is a little bit to the right, you can still just do 2 up dashes to get to the next one. Like, see, she grabs you from the side. This is one situation where you may want to just wait till you start falling, because it is a little harder to time, but you can just time a right dash and an upright to Battle End. Like that. And then Battle End will throw you. 500. And yeah, that's all for part 1 of Summit. That was a little bit more than half of the chapter, but these last 2 sections are pretty long, especially 3000. So I'll be going over those in part 2. See you later.